here. Interestingly, the boys here are still higher than the girls here. Again, kind of showing how deep those gender roles run. And when there's no consequence, they're actually pretty close to this. And that means that hitting Bobo dolls is just inherently fun. Right? So they didn't have to get a treat. They said, hey, that looks like fun to beat the hell out of that thing. And they did. So we're seeing that when they saw the vicarious punishment, their aggressive levels are going down. Now, importantly, they're going down. They're not completely eliminated. And it's important to understand aggression is a very, very complicated behavior. There is no single factor that is going to create or remove it. How about if we give it an incentive to hit the Bobo doll? Now what happens? They said, you've got to do what the model did. You've got to do what you saw the adult do. Now, everybody. No matter what they saw the model rewarded, they banged on the Bobo doll. They saw the model punished, they banged on the Bobo doll. They didn't see anything happen to the model, they banged on the Bobo doll. Now this is important to show it's not just imitation. It's important to show that they picked up the behavior, but they only did it when? When there was an incentive. So the kids here, who had depressed that behavior previously, because they said that person got in trouble when they did it, they still learned the behavior. And what this means is that people can do things, and bad things happen to them, and you still learn how to do what you saw. So it's not, as strict learning theory might say, it's not just that you saw it, something bad happened, you need to learn it. You saw it, something bad happened, you learned it, but didn't do it. And that is something different. And this is why this is a cognitive theory. So just seeing that someone's behavior leads to bad consequences doesn't mean what?
Does it mean that they're not going to still do it?
It doesn't mean you don't have the capacity to do that bad thing in the future too. So punishment is not going to be enough to suppress the learning of aggression. And then this is just both of them on the same figure. So you can see the differences between the no incentive situation and the incentive situation. So all those differences we saw in those red bars are gone on the black bars with the exception of the gender difference between boys and girls doing the aggression. Boys are doing it more. Questions on these results so far? Alright, the cool thing. As we mentioned, when all children were offered reinforcement for the model's behavior, they all committed the behavior. They all learned it by watching it. And when you gave them an incentive, a reason to do it, they could do it. Question? Yes, I'm sorry.
Did they test like female versus male models on the children?
I don't think they did in the original studies, but later they did in a replicated.
Okay.
Good question. This indicates, I'm sorry, Kate, please.
Sorry, real quick question.
Yeah.
When was the study done for
Oh, a long time ago.
70s?
Probably 70s, might even have been 60s. Yes, a long time ago.
Okay.
Now, this is a very, very reliable effect. You do this study tomorrow, it's going to work. Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you're completely fine. I want you to ask questions. Go ahead.
So the Bobo doll, the thing I was thinking is, did they take into account like obviously it looked like a clown, like obviously there was like a little aspect of like it being like almost a toy?
It is a toy, yes.
I know
yes.
it. Okay.
So yes, and this is why Bandura was actually uncomfortable with the generalization of aggression. It's like, they're hitting a toy,
Okay.
right? Going back to Sam's question, they're hitting a toy. They're not harming anybody. They're not even trying to break the toy, right? They're playing with the toy in the way the toy is meant to be played with, right? So Bandura has always kind of resisted the I'm an aggression researcher saying, I'm not studying aggression. I'm just looking to see if you learn behaviors when people are rewarded or punished for them. So it indicates they learned the behavior in all the situations, right? Even when the model was punished, they picked up the behavior. After they learn the behavior, they cognitively evaluate it in terms of its consequence. What will happen to me if I do the behavior?
Is this kind of related to like why kids, like when they're not getting attention at home, if they'll like act bad because they don't care about the consequences, they just want the attention?
Yeah, because in that situation, there's no such thing as bad attention. Yes. And one of the things we've got to be really careful of, this is something we'll talk about a lot in learning theory, is you can't reinforce the wrong behaviors. Right? You can't reinforce the behaviors you don't want. One of the things I see teachers do all the time, they ask their class a question, they want the class to answer. Right? But what happens is after 3.5 seconds of silence, they get uncomfortable with the silence and they do what?
Stop asking questions.
They answer their own question. They have reinforced your silence. What that means is that you're not going to talk. You say, all I got to do is wait 3.5 seconds, because talking in class is risky, and maybe what if I sound stupid? What if I think my question's dumb, right? It's risky. I don't have to engage in the risk. The instructor's going to get bored or awkward or whatever, and 3.5 seconds they'll answer their own question. And they'll say, but my class doesn't talk. You trained them not to talk. We've got to be really careful about what consequences we teach. If your kid's acting up and wants attention, giving them attention reinforces the acting up. We've got to be careful what we're going to reinforce. Excellent question. The behavior only came out when the consequence was favorable. Right? Learn the behavior. Think about what's going to happen when I do it. When the perfect storm of consequences arrives that this behavior is now necessary, that's when the behavior happens. So what Madison has to do is figure out, when do I break out the hammer fist? Right? In some cases, the consequence is going to be bad. Right? I get a bad grade on a test, I hammer fist my teacher. Shouldn't do that. Not a good idea. Right? But life or death situation, you got nothing else to do, hammer fist time. Whoa. Who got the MC Hammer reference? A couple. Yeah, there we go. Good job. My bad. Bandura contends that observational learning happens all the time. We don't turn it off. You see other people do stuff, you pick up their behaviors. You pick up the consequences of their behavior. Sam, yes?
Is this including sleep?
I'm going to say that some dream researchers might actually say that we're cognitively processing what we learned in the day during sleep. I'll say that Bandura probably would say no. We're learning all the time except when we're cognitively not attentive. Because there's a motivational and attentional model that goes into this in a second. While you're sleeping, your attentional processes are at least suppressed. And that's 2 slides away. Bandura said, one cannot keep people from learning what they have seen. If you see it, you possibly have learned it. Whether or not that's a good thing. Same sweet little kid, Liam, my son, right? He's older at this point. He's now 5 years old, I think. We're watching American Ninja Warrior. American Ninja Warrior is amazing, right? Have you seen it?
Yes.
Right now they're having the Ninja versus Ninja competition on, I think it's on USA or something. You gotta check it out, it's amazing. So we're watching American Ninja Warrior. His 2 favorites are Drew Deschel and Kevin Bull. And if you've been keeping up with the seasons, Kevin Bull's kind of had a weak couple of seasons. Hasn't gotten as far as maybe as he would want to. Drew Deschel rocking, but Kevin Bull's had a couple times. We're watching Kevin Bull's going through. He goes up very unexpectedly on like stage 1 or something. Suddenly this screen is like, oh shit. What'd you say? He said, nothing. He didn't even know why. Nothing. No, what did you say? He said, I don't know. What does that word mean? I don't know. Where did you pick it up? Now this could be like the Christmas Story, Heard Me, or something like that, but I try really hard not to be profane in front of my kids. Screw up sometimes, but I try really hard. He says, that's all the kid at school say. He did it when he was mad at something, so I thought that's what you say when you're mad. Someone said, well, yeah, that's what he said. That's what that phrase is for. Right? That expresses frustration. You can't keep him from learning that. Right? And he can't unlearn that. What happens? He was in a situation, frustration occurred, he used the profanity, but then there was a consequence. He had to talk to me about it. He doesn't want to have to talk to me about it. He hasn't been saying the word when I'm around. I don't know if he says it when I'm not around. Right? But you can't keep people from learning things. They will learn not to do it in a situation, but it doesn't mean they've unlearned it or they can't do it. The cooler thing, though, is Bandura contends learning is more efficient through vicarious experience than through direct experience. Now, what do I mean by efficient here? It's faster.
It's more effective.
Depends what you mean by effective. I'm going to argue that the learning is not as deep, but you get to a threshold quicker.
I think there's more like intrinsic value by learning it from somebody else because you also want that attention.
Yeah, so when you're engaged in it, now, who knows the back fist, the hammer fist better? Someone who did the hammer fist or someone who watched the hammer fist?
Did it.
Someone who did, right? So Madison is probably better at it than a lot of you sitting out there. But the difference between Madison's level of efficacy at this and your level of efficacy at this might not actually be as far ahead as you think. Right? Because she had, what, 30 seconds of training? Now what happens in this situation is it was more efficient for me to show all of you than to train any of you one at a time. Right? It's more efficient to show a group and have them watch than to have individuals do it for themselves. This is what Bandura is intending. Right? You get the information out there